Serious, what twists events have happened in your life that you never imagined would? Doctors found a brain tumor in my dad. During surgery, they could only take out 98% of it. For taking out the last 2% would cause too much damage to the brain. He comes out of surgery and can't feel or move anything below his chest. My dad is 6 feet 3 and built. I've never seen him down. The day I saw him after surgery, he looked demolished. Puny. This was 5 months ago. Today, my dad can move his left leg, bathe himself, feed himself, and even take some laps around the house with a walker. Every day is a struggle for him. And the only thing my old man says is, I just want to go back to work. When we were 13, a man we had never seen before showed up on our doorstep and beat our father nearly to death. Turns out he was our much older brother we had no idea existed. He caught wind of our existence, correctly deduced that our father was as abusive to us as he was to him, drove across the country to save us in what I hope is the most soap opera poop that will ever happen to us. My dad finally getting sober. He was a case a day from the age of 16 up until a few years ago. Had several DUIs. Didn't get a job until he was in his 50s. Constantly drank while driving even with us kids in the car. He never talked about his drinking. Never admitted to having a problem. He had a medical procedure and bam. Sober. It's been so weird and so awesome at the same time. My best friend got cancer. Not once. Not twice. But 3 times. After her second time with cancer we thought she was Ned. But not 3 months later she started getting very tired. And one MRI scan later we found out that her tumor is back. And inoperable. Just this past week they decided to cut her chemo. And now her long battle with cancer is coming to an end. I never imagined that my baby sister would kill herself. I never imagined that before I was 30 my mom would die. I never imagined that my grandma would have a deep dark secret involving my mother not actually being my grandfather's child. Probably that my parents no longer scream at each other over anything and everything. My brother said they were even holding hands the last time they visited him. It is so outlandish I am having a hard time believing it until I see it for myself. Being falsely arrested. I didn't think that poop actually happened. Cancer diagnosis at 28. Good thing is that it cut out last Wednesday. And I might be going home tomorrow. My wife cheated and left. The divorce was finalized last week. Certainly surprised me, our kids, and her entire family. Both of my parents died when I was in my 20s and I ended up inheriting property and a significant amount of money. But would trade every cent of it to have either one of them back for one day. My brother died. I was kicked out with the words "I wish you would have died in his place" from my mother, and was homeless 3 years. During my time in the military, we ported out in Sri Lanka. During my night out, I had 4 Coronas and a shot of Jack. Over the course of about 6 hours, my friend had the same. We were used to drinking and had a good fortitude about us. But that amount of alcohol shouldn't have gotten us that messed up. He began slurring his words hard and was unable to stand properly. As I tried to get him outside, the bouncer stood before me. He said that my friend would be fine and to sit back down and keep drinking. My head was heavy but I wasn't about to just sit there. I told the bouncer that we'd be right back. We were going to use the restroom. When we left this bar we shot straight out and grabbed a tuk-tuk, Sri Lankan 3-wheeled taxi, and got the hell out of there. Back to our hotel. I remember getting my friend to the bed, slapping him on the ass and saying, "Sleep tight, bud." Next thing I knew I was waking up to small pebbles being tossed at my head. I looked around and I was on the roof of some building. In Sri Lanka. Alone. Some gentleman helped me inside their house from the roof and I was escorted back to base where I promptly told the command that we'd been drugged. Watch your drinks, folks. Anyone, any gender can fall victim to these things. Stay safe. TLDR, woke up on a roof after my friend and I were drugged in Sri Lanka. Edit, TLDR. Grammar. My mom, little sister and I were playing in the park and my mother and I were talking about what we were going to do for my 18th birthday in a couple months. Later that night she overdosed and was declared brain dead 4 days later and the plug was pulled. Yeah, really didn't see that one coming. There was a guy I could not stand in high school. We hated each other. 10 years after high school we reconnected on Facebook. Now we're married and have a kid. It's the happiest I've ever been. In January I broke up with the girl that I thought was the one. In February I got severely sick. Diagnosed with ulcerative colitis that I had to withdraw from university because of how sick I was. Right when I started getting better the quarantine was put on place. So now I've been stuck inside my house the last 3 months. And I've left it probably 10 times. Did not imagine I'd be this freaking alone and sick right now. My best friend dying in a terrible car crash a few days before her birthday. More than 10 years ago my mother told me we would move to another state within the country. School was way easier there and my grades improved drastically. Due to this I was able to go to a good university, studying the subject I wanted back then and having the possibility of a successful career and life. I was happy to get this chance and took it. Now as I have finished university I do wish to go back and change my subject because the last few years haven't been at all what I was expecting back then. But unfortunately I realized too late. My father suicide. Left behind a wife of 37 years and 3 daughters. I just found out I probably have diabetes. I eat really healthy and walk my dog 2-3 times a day. I thought I could beat my genetics. I threw out everything in my cabinets and fridge. It's scary. Never expected to be very happily married and own a house. I always thought I would end up as gutter trash alone and living in a cardboard box. I lived past 30. Always thought I'd have off myself by now. But nope. I keep on living. Just trying to make poop better as I'm able. When I was 8 or 9 I got phagophobia, aerophobia, where you're very afraid of swallowing solid food. I visited many therapists and eventually got over it. I lost something like 10 kilograms in the first week when it happened. My little brother got murdered. Lost my hearing in my 30s. Wasn't expecting that one. Being sexually assaulted in school multiple times. Being bullied relentlessly. Experiencing religious abuse, conversion therapy, and then later being outed. Having to leave school and then years of mental health issues. I'm just a boring person from a boring town and somehow things just kept happening over and over again in my life. If none of this had happened I would be a completely different person in every aspect of my life. Being left for an arranged marriage despite living in the US in the 21st century was something I never expected to happen. 10/10 recommend if you're looking for a self-esteem boost. When I was in school, I was pretty much convinced I'd join the Air Force and become a pilot. Skipping a few years ahead, graduated in journalism and I'm making a career out of video editing producing. Weird twists. Man. Weird twists. My mother suddenly telling us she has cancer. And then we find out later it's stage 4. The years of bullying and stress making me stronger instead of killing me. Almost did. Hang in there, friends. I think the death of my ex-girlfriend was up there with the most unexpected things in my life so far. That felt surreal. Found out cancer runs in the family at 15. 2 of my sisters and brother had it. My dad had hidden the genes from us until then. My girlfriend at the time broke up with me when I told her why I was so upset, as we, the family, were trying to hide what was going on and she thought I was just trying to make excuses to break up. Few months later found out I had another sister and a nephew abroad that my dad had abandoned. My mother and her partner just started to smoke weed 24/7 after the whole thing blew over. It was insane to look at such a drastic change between going into and leaving high school. I can't eat solid food or even drink. I get my feedings through a feeding tube. Never in my life did I imagine this would happen to me, but here we are. I never expected to have a cancerous tumor on my thyroid and need to do radioactive iodine treatment at 25 years later. I take pills daily due to my thyroid being removed. But it's going well for the most part. So I never expected to have to worry about it so soon. Just happy to be well. COVID cancelled my USMLE exam, medical school exam, the day before I was going to take it after studying for it for 9 months. That sucked. In 1 year. Going from getting laid off, rehired at a lower salary elsewhere, mentally abused, cheated on, having my former spouse drain my entire savings, with a mortgage and bills to pay for, to feeling suicidal and hopeless for months, to being hired to a job I've worked hard to obtain for years with a huge salary bump. Having my divorce finalized with minimal financial impact, could have been much worse. Keeping my house. Finally being content, happy, and working towards becoming financially stable again when you're going through hard times. It never feels like you'll ever get out. But you will. Keep your head up and hang in there if you're going through it. Don't let the adversity beat you. For me, my life literally changed in one day, which was getting a call with a job offer, and another that the divorce terms were finally agreed upon that same morning. It was surreal. It felt like I was wearing sunglasses for months. And that day I could finally them off and everything was brighter again. Well, I never thought I'd be diagnosed with a mental disorder. I've been married to a woman for 25 years. That's spectacular because I'm actually bisexual and lean heavily toward men. I never thought I would be with a woman, much less 25 years, and looking for another 25 more. Stage 4 lymphoma. That was certainly a curveball. 1 massive surgery and 6 rounds of chemo. But I made it through. Coronavirus. When I was younger we thought, man, by 2020 we'll have flying cars. Turns out, we'll be teaching people how to wash their hands. My mentor decided to surprise me with a birthday party. And after an evening of partying, she let my boyfriend and I stay the night. The next day, I woke up to my mom calling me. She called me 6 times before that. Literally calling until I woke up. I answered the phone and she was sobbing on the other line, telling me that my cousin's almost ex-husband did something to her and himself and that I needed to come home ASAP. On the drive there, my brain managed to convince myself that my cousin was still alive. Of course. She met me on the driveway and told me that they were both dead. My cousin was murdered and her husband killed himself afterwards. Recalling that day is surreal. I don't think I've ever heard myself scream in that kind of way. My parents tried to hug me but I had to push them away and run inside into the bathroom because I couldn't stop dry heaving. I was instantly throttled into a panic attack and couldn't stop screaming her name. My cousins were raised with me. All of us were as close as siblings. I lost my big sister in the most hellish way possible. I'm hoping I never have to feel heartbreak like that for the rest of my life. Coming home to finding that my father had committed suicide at 14. Almost 20 years later and I still have nightmares. Getting pregnant at 18. Marrying my abusive boyfriend and having 2 more children. I finally gathered the courage to leave him 2 years ago and joined the military at 30 so I would have the means to support myself and my 3 children. My ex has made my life absolute hell ever since. Trying to ruin me financially. Manipulate my children. and attempted to kill me. I fought so hard to normalize the situation and have been working 3 jobs up until Corona hit to make ends meet. My final court date was supposed to be in May but has now been delayed. I was really looking forward to normal life. Hahaha. Getting cheated on after treating your so with so much love, and it was surprising too because there was no problems in the relationship because I always listened to her if there was and correct the mistakes from the past. Gladly. At least THST is over and I'm recovering on it.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.